What's up, everybody? There we go. I got the right mic on now. How goes it? Welcome to another exciting edition of TEM Coaching Chats that are happening on Tuesday. Finding your personal creative rhythm. This is something that I have actually spoken about a number of times on the podcast before, and this was something that Dale Trumbore, who is a wonderful composer, first brought to my attention. At least this term, and I think it bears repeating, which is how important it is for all of us to figure out what works with us. I was actually just talking to a potential client today, actually on the subject of practicing. They were going to hire me as a practicing coach, and just talking about the importance of figuring out what works for us and what doesn't work for us. And that, of course, takes a lot of reps, and it takes a lot of data, and it takes a lot of being in a feedback loop and being honest about what's working, what's not. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit now. One thing is that if you ever post on social media that you have practice for 2 hours before 8 a.m., that's going to get lots of likes because it shows that you're serious, and it's like it's hardcore, and like the people who like the grind mindset are going to be like, yeah man, and you woke up early, you're crushing it. And that's a really good thing, but that's not for everyone. There are some people who work way better at night. Notice that I host this thing at 10 p.m., which you can obviously tell that I'm super sharp right now because of how articulate. I just said the word "how" 4 times. That's funny, unintentional comedy. But no, sarcasm aside, I'm pretty good in the morning, but early morning, not at all. 6 a.m., 7 a.m., that is not a time, even if I didn't share walls with a neighbor here, that is not a great time for me to be doing really in-depth practicing. So don't get lulled into this sense that you're not taking care of business because you're not practicing super early, or because you're not doing, well, really anything super early. If you work great until midnight, then you should be getting more than 5 hours of sleep. So you shouldn't be waking up at 5 a.m. to then like start, launching in at 6 a.m. You got to figure out what works for you. When are you tired? Most people tend to have kind of a rhythm to their day. I don't know what it is, but every single day, and I've tried to figure this out. I don't think it has to do with diet. I don't think it has to do with caffeine or sugar intake. I don't think it has to do with like how much sleep I got the night before. It's not the same amount every day, but the hour between 4 and 5 o'clock is when my energy just dips, and I sometimes teach during that hour, and I'm able to, although at times it takes a lot more effort to teach well than it does at other times of the day. And there's really nothing I can do about this dip in my energy at 4 o'clock. Now, if I'm not hydrated, there's a bunch of stuff that can make it worse, but I can't make it go away. And so I have to figure out, like, what is the stuff that requires the most concentration for me. One of those things is writing copy, which means that when you are having a private teaching studio, what does your landing page, your home page, or if you have a specific landing page, like where do people first see you? What does it say at the top? What does it not say at the top? What words do you use? I've gotten a lot better at writing copy over the last few years because I now my hairdresser asked me the other day if I have a website, and I said I have 4, and she went, what? And then we talked about all the websites. I am not an expert at copywriting. There are people who do it full time all the time, but I've gotten a lot better because I have studied it. I've done it poorly a bunch, which is how I got better at the tuba. It's how I get better at everything. And so, but copywriting, figuring out what words to use, and you have to like solve problems for people, and it has to speak to them on some kind of an emotional level, or else it just reads like a menu, which is not ideal. That takes as much mental capacity for me as anything that I do as a part of my portfolio career. That is more exhausting to me than if you told me that tomorrow that I was doing a masterclass at Juilliard, which I would take very seriously and I've done before. And that's like, it's a high pressure room, right? Because you got the teachers there are the best in the world, the students are some of the best in the world. But I've done that. It takes less focus I'm not really putting this right, but it's less taxing on my brain because I've done that more than this copywriting thing where it really taxes my mind. Guess what I don't do at 4 p.m. That, right? I also wouldn't choose to do a masterclass at Juilliard at 4 p.m. if I got to choose, which you frequently don't. And I've done lots of classes and I've done lots of lessons and I've done lots of things at 4 p.m. Again, it just takes me extra effort. But the stuff that I get to schedule, the stuff that takes a lot of bandwidth, I do not do at 4 p.m. I also would not reserve my most intense and challenging practice session for 4 p.m. either. And so the question is, when do you get tired? Do you have a natural dip? Try and schedule around that. When in the day, also, are you most productive? The answer when I was in college sure as hell wasn't 9 a.m. If Rex Martin is watching this, he's he's probably yelling, "Yeah, no bleep and bleep." But because I had a lot of 9 a.m. lessons and I was not always awake for all of them. But nowadays, 9 a.m., as long as I wake up, by 8, 9 a.m. is like peak time for me. So guess what I do then? I do things like writing copy for websites or for emails or that kind of a thing. And so you have to figure out when you're at your best in terms of creativity and in terms of concentration, when you're at your worst in terms of creativity and concentration. Ignore when that is for other people. And it's not better to have that early in the morning. It is when it is. Figure out when it works for you and then do that. Also, how long can you be creative or can you do something that's really taxing in a row? Pomodoro timer is a really great thing where you can be on for 25 minutes and then off for 5 minutes. And I have learned, like when I'm staring at a screen, that off can't be then staring at this screen. It doesn't really help. Like your eyes need a rest, etc. But I just want to see what else has gone wrong in the world. So I fire up Twitter and doom scroll. But I try not to do that. But you might figure out that you work better in 45-minute chunks. Maybe you work best in 15-minute chunks. There are lots of times in all of our lives when you can't just like decide that if you get called by the National Symphony Orchestra to go to the Kennedy Center, can we do the rehearsal in 15-minute chunks because that's what I'm at my best? Like, what, lose our number. But when you get to schedule it yourself, whether this be practicing or whether this be working on a website or whether this be brainstorming events or you name it, you get to decide when you do what you do. And I would just encourage you, if you listen to Dale's wonderful interview, you will hear Dale talk about getting to the conclusion of what was working and what wasn't. And it's a lot of reps, but it's a lot of intentional reps, right? That's the whole 10,000 hours thing, which I'm not even sure if I'm fully on board with the whole concept of 10,000 hours to master something. But regardless, it's 10,000 intentional hours. It's not just mindlessly doing fill in the blank and then you become an expert. And so I would encourage you to spend a bunch of time finding your personal creative rhythm. And it's going to make you more efficient. It's going to enable you to do the most important and most challenging work, which is sometimes the same things. Sometimes those are different things, but both of those should be slotted when you are at maximum capacity, maximum creativity, and then steer clear either entirely or get some of the more mundane things like balancing the books or making sure that the money is there. Unless you're really bad at math, then maybe you don't do that. But the point is, you have to figure out what works for you. You have to figure out what doesn't work for you and go with that and ignore the people who imply that if you do everything before 6 a.m. that it's better, because it might be better for them, but it doesn't mean it's better for you. All right. Thank you very much you can find more about the entrepreneurial musician at tem.fm. There's coming up on episode 250 of the podcast, which is kind of crazy. If you're interested in any TEM coaching, then you can go to temcoaching.com And I think that's going to do it. So thank you very much for your attention as always.